But now we'll go ahead and move on to our NBA MVP ladder. According to NBA.com, right now they have Nikola Jokic sitting at number one, Jayson Tatum sitting at number two, Joel Embiid at number three, Luka Doncic at number four, and Giannis at number five. So you guys think they got it right?
I think that's fairly accurate. I would say that's practically spot on. That's basically what I had. I only had Giannis and Luca flipped. But otherwise, I think they got a spot on with Jokic at number one. I think everybody has him at number one. I mean, they're sitting at number one, having one of the best offenses in the league and the best net rating. And it just feels like nightly he just puts up like 25, 11, 11, a triple double machine. The guy's just been the craziest floor raiser in recent years. And number two, Jayson Tatum. I mean, this guy's absolute machine on both ends all season long. They got off to a really hot start. Maybe tailored down a little bit and then right back up. They're creating a sizable gap in that Eastern Conference. Number three, Joel Embiid. He skyrocketed up to number three, and rightfully so. I mean, the Sixers are sitting at number two, and we'll talk about them a little bit later. But they were on a win streak, and these guys have 17 of the last 21 games that they won. Actually, 18 of the last 22 as of now. But these guys have just been dominating like these last 20 plus games, and that James Harden and Joel Embiid connection, it's surging right now. Number four, I had Giannis at number four. You know, I just feel like Giannis for some weird reason this season he's being looked at in a different light. I feel like that 3 game stretch where he kind of struggled against the Hawks and a couple other teams where he had like 9 points or something like that. I feel like a
Nick,
lot against what?
the Knicks.
Charlotte
Yeah,
Hornets.
yeah,
I want my money back from that game. I'm not gonna lie to you.
yeah. The little 3 game stretch where Giannis kind of struggled, people took advantage of him. But I'm pretty sure he had a 40 ball just the other day again. And he's sitting right next to the Philadelphia 76ers. They're sitting at about third, and they're right there with them. They can overtake them in about a game or two. And the reason why I have Luca at this spot, number five, is I understand Luca, amazing player and all. We potentially in about a year or two, he's probably going to be maybe consensus best player in the league. But you know, they just lost these last couple of games. They lost to Kawhi, and I don't know what Kawhi has against the Mavericks, but every time this guy plays them, he rises up and he has a 30 ball. And I just feel like the seeding is what's holding Luka back from getting into this top three spot. Getting into these top three spots. So, I think the NBA they did get it right. So that's just how I see it.
Oh yeah, I'm 100% sure with the top three. I'm a Jokic 1, 2 Tatum, 3 Embiid. None about you can say about that. I'm gonna keep Luka at 4 though. I think Luka he does a lot more for his team than what Giannis brings to the table. I feel like the Bucks have a much more complete team than Dallas does, and Luka almost does pretty much everything. Pretty much everything for Dallas. You ask him for everything. What's the record? I'm pretty sure they have like what 1 win and like what 13, 14 losses without Luka. I'm not too sure, but it's not looking good. So for me, I'm gonna keep Luka at 4 and Giannis at 5. That stretch of games that he had where he was like, hey, 7 points, or he was shooting 3 for 11 or 3 for 14 or 3 for 15, and then he missed a couple games right after that. They kind of, I don't know. For me, Giannis been playing good this year, but to me, he's been playing normal. Not the Giannis that I really wanted to expect. Not the Giannis that 33, 34, 14 boards, but to me, he's been playing average. I feel like teams have started to build a wall against him. They started to find a way to break him down, but we'll see. But I agree 100%. I feel like Jokic is going to run off and win MVP this year, so we'll see what happens. But hey, speak about Embiid, man. They were sitting at seventh or 16th when he was injured. He came back, and the stretch of games that he's been pulling off, he's been hooping. So, I might want to put him at 2 in the next couple of weeks, but Embiid's up there again, and it might be a battle between Embiid, Jokic, and Tatum this year. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the NBA's list for the MVP ladder. You guys have all said great things about these guys, but I do have a more important question to ask because I know when we last talked about NBA, I did mention that Nikola Jokic is probably gonna because we were talking about who we think is playing like an MVP right now. It was Luka at that point. I didn't miss to mention that what if Jokic is slowly sneaking his way into the conversation, and now 1 month later he's the number one favorite to win the MVP award. So with that being said, if Nikola Jokic secures his third MVP in a row, does that make him the consensus best player on the planet?
The only reason why I say it doesn't because the last 2 years in the playoffs, Denver has come up really short. And of course, with context, injuries have riled, the series against the Suns, he was missing players. And then, of course, last year, he was still missing players. So we can't really hold those losses against him. But if he loses again, this year with a healthy roster, his best roster in his career, without a shade of a doubt, like, I think that's enough to say he's not the best player on the planet. If anything, like people point to, well, is this guy just a regular season guy? If he loses in the playoffs, if he comes up short, because like it's kind of similar to like what happened with Giannis in the bubble, right? He won 2 straight MVPs, and then he came into the bubble and he lost to Miami. And there's nobody that had Giannis as the best player after that point, up until he won the ring again the next year. So I think if he comes up short in the playoffs, I think people start to make the argument that there's no way this guy can be the best player in the league if he's won 3 MVPs in a row, but he can't perform in the playoffs, or he can't go far enough in the playoffs. So that's how I see it.
It's pretty tough, but I low key do agree with you. I mean, 3 MVPs in a row, and then you go to the playoffs and there's no success there, and then how can you be the best player on the planet? Once the playoffs come around, you gotta every award's put to the side. You gotta perform. It's a new season. You feel me? And if you don't perform in that season, how can you be called the best player in the world? We call Steph the best player in the world because what did he do last year? Performed and won the chip. Guys like KD, LeBron in the past, we call them the best. They perform and they win the chip. So Jokic, getting this third MVP, he has to perform. He has to get to, even like, I don't say to win the finals, but get to the finals. You feel me? Get to the finals, and then we'll have that discussion there. But yeah, I feel like there has to be some type of playoff performance, or he takes it to the next level. We've seen guys like Curry, we've seen guys like Giannis in the past, KD, LeBron, recent MVPs do that. So yeah.
I think you guys all make some valid points. I do agree. Of course, his play in the postseason does, play a factor into labeling him the best player on the planet. But I feel like if he wins his third MVP award and he is successful in the playoffs, just personally himself, if he's just very good in the playoffs, and his team is just average or just decent, he carries them far enough. I would probably say the Western Conference Finals. I wouldn't be mad if people said, "Yo, Nikola Jokic is the best player on the planet." But I also have to say this in terms of, of course, the West and how it's shaping up right now. It really just depends on how, tough the Western Conference is going into the playoffs. Right now, the West is kind of it's at its weakest point, in my opinion. There's not a lot of great teams, but we all know there's a few teams that when they make the playoffs, they turn into great teams. But the Nuggets, they're a team that's always going to be great throughout, from start to finish. So there's no doubt about, Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets come postseason time. But a few other teams kind of just coast through the regular season, and then kind of just turn it up in the playoffs. But Nikola Jokic, man, for him to be the front runner right now for the MVP award for his third straight year, it's just amazing. And simply, putting aside the voters' fatigue, it's just hard to deny what he's putting on display each and every night. Like Abdi said, it's 25, 11, and 11 plus every night consistently. Some nights you don't necessarily hear about it, other nights you do. But that's how Nikola Jokic has always been in the Denver Nuggets, the team that's always flown under the radar. And whenever you hear about them, it's always something crazy has to happen. It's not like teams like the Lakers or the Clippers, big name teams. You don't necessarily hear things about the Denver Nuggets, but I think the NBA did get it right with the MVP ladder. And for Nikola Jokic, if he wins this third MVP award, the discussion will begin whether or not they make it extremely far. They win this. If they don't win the NBA championship, I think there will be a discussion that needs to be held in terms of whether or not he's the best player on the planet right now.